There is no Illuminati. It's just a joke.
All lies will be exposed. That's all. And anyone who takes that the wrong way, know why they take it the wrong way.
He was specifically horrified of this. And then he said, regarding to the other Diddy stuff, he said what he's accused of is shameful. And he said all the other victims that have alleged that he's abused them, it's quite a shame for them too. I really just want accountability and healing. So I think this is an opportunity for us to say, this is why we shouldn't jump to judgment. We're on national, international television.
Diddy really screwed up. And I'm not referring to his criminal trial, which has him sitting in prison right now. But it has to do with something that happened right before he got arrested. If you've seen the Netflix documentary about Diddy, The Reckoning, which 50 Cent produced, there's some footage there that had never been seen before. This is a photographer that Diddy hired.
Because in 30 years, I've done nothing but collect information, knowledge, and your secrets. So if you and a man was in a corner doing something you wasn't supposed to be doing,
you will tell it.
All of these big dick deviants is all catching hell in 2024. It's up for all of them. It don't matter if you Diddy or whoever you is, TG Jakes, any of them. All lies will be exposed. That's all. And anyone who takes that the wrong way, know why they take it the wrong way.
Kaat Williams doesn't make accusations. He drops signals. And when he spoke on Diddy and Jay-Z, he exposed a question the industry refuses to confront. When power shields itself through silence, who decides when the truth is finally allowed to rise? His warning that powerful figures would face reckoning stopped sounding like comedy the moment the headlines started to match. Music. By late 2025, a major documentary reshaped the narrative. No longer about one man's downfall, but about what the system had long permitted. If consequences are unfolding, the real question isn't who falls first, but who controls the moment it begins.
A little confusing at first. There were two different private jet situations going on. His main private jet, an all-black one, a Gulfstream 5 that he uses pretty often, was actually tracked to an island in the Caribbean called Antigua. And at first it looked like he was flying to Antigua, landing in Antigua, and a lot of people online assumed that Diddy was, quote, on the run or on the lam. As we learned after the fact, that wasn't quite the case. Diddy was not on that private jet, and at this point, there's no clear evidence that anybody really tied to him was on that jet. In any case, we know that the jet was in Antigua, it was grounded, it landed. In the meantime, Diddy was actually at an airport in Miami. He was about to go enjoy spring break with his kids. He's got 2 teenage daughters and a small entourage that he was with. They were stopped at the Opa-locka Airport, which is an executive airport, private airport. A lot of private jets go there. And before he could take off in that private jet, federal agents stopped him with Customs and Border Patrol, Homeland Security, and Miami PD. We actually have photos of Diddy interacting with these agents right there on the tarmac. You can see Diddy and his daughters and other people in his crew talking, being questioned. In some of the photos, it looks like some of them might be getting. In any case, we know that Diddy himself was not cuffed during this whole ordeal, but somebody was cuffed. A guy named Brendan Paul, 25-year-old young guy who seems to be an associate of Diddy's, a friend of Diddy's. He actually ended up getting arrested during this whole thing because cops claim they found drugs in his travel bags, possession of cocaine, possession of marijuana next day. Meanwhile, while everybody was kind of getting questioned inside, we got video of Diddy pacing around outside after the fact, and he looked distressed. He looked very nervous, but he himself was not in handcuffs, and he himself did not seem to be getting questioned all that much either. Fast forward to today and where things stand. At this point, we know that federal investigators have subpoenaed a number of companies tied to Diddy, including charter jet companies, home security companies, computer companies, things that Diddy has in his possession that they think will help them crack the case and help them surface evidence to implicate him in a crime. That's what they're trying to do here, right? In the meantime, Diddy has been off the radar and silent. That is,
a documentary can be spectacle, proof, or pressure, sometimes all at once. The Reckoning framed itself as an exploration of culture and consequence, not merely a single name. That distinction matters because accountability rarely arrives in pure form. It moves through curated narratives and carefully rationed truth. When a project claims to interrogate a system, it subtly forces the question of who profited, who remained quiet, and who kept certain stories sealed until the moment felt secure.
And I wanted to get your reaction to the news that he is going to be taken off over a dozen cases involving Diddy.
All right, y'all. Boy, I swear, and only people that really understand this is people that like in paralegal law, the law field, or attorneys and stuff like that. This video is gonna be too deep for a lot of y'all. Y'all gonna find out later on. It's gonna come to be true.
You know, Reggie, ever since this Diddy situation happened and we've been covering it ongoing, it reminds me how important it is to have a good lawyer on your team. That's why I'm glad to bring to you Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. They have over 1,000 attorneys operating in all 50 states, and when you are seriously hurt, your injury could be worth millions. Morgan & Morgan don't settle for the lowball offers. They fight for every dollar you deserve if you become their client. Just recently, they achieved some significant verdicts for their clients, $12 million in Florida, 34 times the highest insurance offer, and $26 million in Philadelphia, which is over 40 times the highest insurance offer. With Morgan & Morgan, there's no upfront costs, and the fee is absolutely free unless you win. And it only takes a few minutes to see if you have a case. If you've ever been seriously injured, your case can be worth millions, and you're only a few clicks away from finding out if you could change your life. It's easy to start your claim now. You can visit forthepeople.com/bomb, or you can scan the QR code with your phone's camera in the corner.
But what Tony Busby did, and he fucked up, there's something that you have to do when you work in different districts in the federal courts. So it's not like his license is suspended in New York, like people are reporting and all of that. What's happening is when you get a complaint filed against you, like he did by Jay-Z and lawyer and all of that, then you can't do what they call pro hoc. Pro hoc is a term that you'll have to look up, or a lot of attorneys they know what I'm talking about, is when you have a state bar license for certain states, right? But in federal court, you have to get permission to go and work in these districts in the courthouse. So it's not even just for the state. They have what they call Central District of New York, or Eastern District, or Southern, and all of these different districts in each state for the feds. And so what you do is you pro hoc. So that means they just another way for them to get some money for you to be able to work in that district. Tony Busby fucked up. So before that bullshit case that he took that.
Combs' legal saga is often presented as a lone collapse, but it also reveals how culture selects its central villain. Focus locks onto the most visible figure because that story is easy to digest. Kaat Williams' implication is more direct. Systems don't fail by accident. They concentrate blame onto a single face when it shields the larger network. If one person bears the burden, what does everyone else escape?
Main things he got off on is exactly what he wanted, which was the RICO stuff. That was the dangerous stuff. The lawyer comes out and says, we accept the fact that he paid for people and prostitution, but not trafficking, not any of that stuff. And because of that, they say the lawyers on the other end totally royally screwed up. Rob, if you got that clipped, I don't know what the timeline was. It was definitely a few months ago.
I can tell you, this was May 15th, so almost 2 full months ago.
Okay, I played a clip. What is he being judged for? He's being judged for what? For
racketeering
and trafficking. Well, trafficking is mutual. There's consensual. So the trafficking case could be dismissed. The racketeering on what he's doing, well, there's plenty of documentation there that something can happen. But some of the handling could potentially cause Diddy to become O.J. Simpson 2.0.
Yeah.
Goes free.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I actually think that's
my opinion.
I think that's what's going to happen, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
When Jay-Z's name surfaces in scandal narratives, it's usually through association, not confirmed claims. That's the boundary between rumor and record, a boundary audiences often erase. Online culture treats proximity as proof. While institutions demand evidence, the documentary era invites viewers to draw lines, even when lines aren't facts. The deeper question isn't what did he do, but what kind of power structure determines who remains untouchable.
If Ben knew these things, 50 will pay a private investigator to follow you around and to go to your party. At that top level, that's how they playing, bro. That's how they coming to that top level. People not finna come out and deny it because, all right, the search warrant come, they pull these files. and they see you at that crib, what you about to say? What are you gonna say? If you know you didn't do nothing, you're gonna say, man, that's a lie. Nobody's saying that. So what does that mean?
Now I hear you.
Because I'm gonna make sure you know, no, I was not there. No, I was not touching man cakes. No, I'm not kissing men in here. Well, if that's what you do, that's what you do. But I'm not coming like that. Me and Foden, I'm not coming like that. This the world we in now, though, so I just move accordingly.
So being from Chicago.
Yes, sir.
Have you ever ran across R. Kelly or been around R. Kelly?
I grew up around this guy. So R. Kelly, personal pastor, his reverend, that's my uncle. So my Uncle Keith have took me around him multiple times trying to get him to hire him to be his security. Now, the first time I ever seen him was at my church a couple times when I was a kid. Then I was seeing him at my uncle's house. You feel me? I was seeing him there. But I never liked the dude, bro. I always thought something was strange about him because I used to go to this school called Providence St. Mel. Now, that sex tape that he had with the 15-year-old, she went to that same school. So this was already floating around in the city already. You know what I'm saying? So I had been knowing this guy. I never liked him. I thought he was strange. You feel me? So my uncle come get me. He say, nephew, I got a gig for you. Robert trying to hire new security. Because he always had Hammer with him. And he always had that white guy, Chris, with the hearing problem. Who had the hearing aid in. He always had them. So they fell out over money. So my uncle tried to smooth me right in. But the problem was, though, you know, we in the locker room, they changing clothes before they go hoop. He stripped completely naked, balls hanging.
In celebrity ecosystems, the loudest statements are often unspoken. When risk escalates, alliances stall, circles contract, and distance forms without explanation. Brands don't require moral clarity, they require protection. Social media becomes a subtle indicator of who is turning into a liability. Documentary culture magnifies these shifts into narrative. But when silence is calculated, how do we separate conviction from self-preservation?
Now, one thing that the internet has made a big deal about is Diddy and Meek Mill. Because there's quite a few, like, suspect videos out there. You know, there's a video where Diddy is calling Meek Mill daddy, and then there's a picture of them wearing the same outfit. You know, what's your thoughts on that? And did you ever hang around them or see them?
All the time. All the time. And I feel that that's 100% no truth to. You know, that's, see, people, when it comes to stuff like that, they, you know, of course we dealing with the internet. I really don't think that's them two back there screaming and yelling. But I was there when Diddy first met me. You know what I'm saying? We went to Philly one time, and this was when Meek first was starting, and he was in a little spot with smoke and everything. And not weed smoke, but just like one of those spots in Philly where maybe 100 people might be your audience. And Puff was like, yo, we gotta go see this dude Meek. And we went over there. And at this time, I think Meek was doing his first All-Star. And he was like, yo, I'm getting ready, I'm booked in All-Star. And Puff was like, yo, I'm proud of you, man. He was like, yo, I'm gonna go get me this Aston Martin after All-Star weekend. And that was his first Aston Martin that he had ever had. That's how early in the career it was. And after that, you know, Puff is the type of person, man, when it comes.
Some of the most disturbing moments aren't fresh accusations. They're old interviews that carry new meaning with time. A young artist describes pressure once labeled as opportunity. That's how power conceals itself through normalization. Across entertainment, the pattern repeats, ambition meeting gatekeeping, rarely followed by consequence. And when access is valued more than boundaries, What lesson does that leave for the next generation stepping inside?
You had with Cassie with 4 days, right, in Miami?
Yes, it was.
Break that down, if you don't mind.
That was a lot of drugs, a lot of alcohol. It just, something like you didn't even realize when you were in these encounters that they went so long, especially if they like convinced you to take the drug. Because the thing about ecstasy and Molly, those type of drugs, is they're not drugs that suppress you. They don't numb you. They heighten everything. So if you take them, you have a bunch of energy, and like your nerves are, every nerve in your body is alive because you have the sexual sensation to continue to go forward. So with drugs like these, you just stay up and you don't even realize that you're up so long because you're kind of like having fun. You feel good. So you're constantly having sex. Before you know it, you start in the morning. It's nighttime. You might doze off for maybe 30 minutes, start having sex again. By the time you finish, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. We fall asleep for a few hours. We wake up 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning, order breakfast, start again. And before you know it, you're 3-4 days in, dehydrated, brain feel like marshmallow from all the drugs that you've been taking for 3 or 4 days. And your body's sore, you're marked up. Like I used to be bruised as far as my penile shaft from obsessive masturbation of her standing there making me stroke myself so she can see my member. I don't recall the extended sessions that were 3-4 days to ever end well. Like I was always bruised up. I always had like scarring and tears on my penis. I would always be completely dehydrated and out of it for days. The long encounters were usually the worst.
Man. And Diddy, he got mad at you because you was having sex with Cassie behind his back, right?
No, I never had sex with her behind his back. She was contacting me behind his back. After a while, the sex got really good after a while. So, as a woman, as a human being, she wants to connect with the person that's making her feel like this. We had a lot in common. Her birthday's August 26th. My birthday's August 26th. So we're birth Virgos. She's really into astrology. So, us just being people who believe in certain things. Imagine meeting a woman and you having sex with her and it's great. And then one day you find out you and her are born on the same day. That's something that you're going to be like, wow, is this a coincidence? So I think that's what kind of really strengthened our relationship to the point where she started to want to know more about me. So she would contact me, tell me how great the sex was, ask me for penis pictures, just ask me what I was doing during the day. And this actually went on, I want to say, for 6 or 8 months until
Major scandals often arrive with whispers of more, yet specifics rarely emerge because speaking carries real consequences. In the Combs story, interviews reveal fear and retaliation, creating room for intermediaries, voices that signal patterns without assuming full legal risk. When truth can't safely anchor to names, who decides what the public is permitted to know?
Had a lawsuit dismissed against him because the victim was scared and she didn't want to proceed with her real name. The judge denied this Jane Doe's motion to proceed anonymously and ordered her to refile her complaint with her own name by March 20th of 2025, or the case would be dismissed. And the judge today dismissed this lawsuit, and he said that she did not refile her complaint with her own name or seek an extension of time to do so. Tony Busby did say that this was expected in this case with this Jane Doe to opt out to not proceeding against Diddy with her lawsuit if she had to give her name. He said that there is a lot of fear amongst these plaintiffs filing lawsuits against Diddy, and he can't blame her. He said that these are tough cases, and many times they are re-traumatizing for those who pursue them. Each case stands on its own merit, and this woman chose not to proceed and subject herself to the media circus and the perceived danger that she felt, and we will respect that. And of course, Diddy's lawyer responded, calling this a big win for Diddy. They said today a federal judge dismissed a lawsuit filed against Diddy by Texas attorney Tony Busby and his local counsel. He said this is now the second case brought by these attorneys against Diddy that has been dismissed in its entirety. He is claiming it will not be the last. For months, we have seen case after case filed by individuals hiding behind anonymity, pushed forward by attorneys more focused on media headlines than legal merit. The other claims, like the one dismissed today, also will not hold up in a a court of law. One part that I really can't stand about Diddy's statement, he acted like it went through the whole entire court process. Like she literally dismissed it because she was scared or whatever her reasoning was. It didn't even go through the whole process for you to get discovery and all of this information. But I'm honestly not surprised because we would know that Diddy would take this stance and make it seem like all of these people are lying about him. And granted, some people are probably not telling the truth out of all of these lawsuits, but you can guarantee some of them are probably not lying. So yes, this was a win for Diddy because this lawsuit ended up being dismissed, but not because she went through the whole court process, Bub. I think a lot of the time, Diddy forgets about how many lawsuits that he actually has. This man has over 50 lawsuits in total, and a lot of them have made it past this stage where it is going to go into discovery and depositions. It shows you that there is legal merit for these cases to be heard. If I was Diddy, knowing I only had a month left until my huge criminal trial, knowing that I potentially could sit the rest of my life in prison, I wouldn't be that worried about these little wins from these civil lawsuits. Because in my opinion, you have a very long way to go, sir. You are nowhere near in the clear. You have your criminal trial coming up. That should be where all your attention is at right now. And remember, out of the civil lawsuits and the two that you talk about that's been dismissed because these Jane and John Does don't want to reveal themselves, you still have over 50 lawsuits against you right now, still going. But y'all let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments.
When scandals break, conversation often devolves. Rumor is wielded like a weapon, innuendo packaged as entertainment. That masquerades as investigation. It's distraction. The outcome is predictable. Real accountability grows more difficult. A thoughtful narrative resists spectacle. The aim isn't to shame, but to reveal how power shields itself. And if outrage spirals into chaos, who is truly benefiting?
Came out, meaning he believed Cassie even before the video. He then said, and absolutely it's something that needs to be brought to light when it happens. He said, my default stance is to believe women when they make these accusations and to make sure that we do whatever we can to support women. He also said that he was specifically horrified of this. And then he said, regarding to the other Diddy stuff, he said what he's accused of is shameful. And he said all the other victims that have alleged that he's abused them, it's quite a shame for them too. I really just want accountability and healing. So I think this is an opportunity for us to say, this is why we shouldn't jump to judgment. We're on international television, castigating John Legend for not doing the very thing that he actually did. Then all I had to do was type John Legend Diddy, and it came up first. So you guys owe John Legend an apology if you don't edit this.
Yeah, okay, so here's what I would say to that. It's right that you've pointed that out. My understanding is that were comments he made back in May, not since we've had the raft of charges against Diddy, which is what I'm talking about. So there's been nothing. It's been a deafening wall of silence since the charges. That's what I'm talking about.
We were just talking about Cassie. We specifically just said he didn't say anything about Cassie.
No, I think, look, Candace was talking about Cassie. He clearly did make a statement in referring to that, and that should be acknowledged. So that's fair enough to point that out.
I actually did not see the statement that he made about Cassie and read it in its entirety. So if I missed that, I'm more than happy to own it. I did not see him make a statement. And typically when he makes a statement, it's everywhere. So I guess they just hadn't picked up on what he said about Cassie, and he did great. I'm glad that he's one person in Hollywood who said something, because that was the most troubling for me with LeBron James. I'm like, we actually have video evidence of this. Like, everybody should be saying something about this if you purport to care about women. And him and Chrissy Teigen are typically very loud on topic, his wife especially. So if I missed that and he said something about Cassie, good for John Legend. That makes he and I are on the exact same side on that. But it's not enough that it's just John Legend. Like, there needs to be a lot more people in Hollywood that are speaking out about what's happening.
Let me ask you,
there's
Mark,
a race piece to this too, though. Can we talk about the race piece to this? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was literally about to ask you about that. So you go ahead, Mark, go on.
Because it's really fascinating here, right? So we're saying Diddy does this awful thing. Again, Diddy, despicable, monster. No defense of Diddy. We're asking all the prominent black people to speak out against it, right? But there is never a call for white people to denounce like, no one says every white guy who's ever met Harvey Weinstein needs to say something.
Yes, there was. Of course there was.
No.
Literally everyone who ever worked with him was asked to condemn it. And most of them rushed to do it.
Pierce, I want you to listen to what I said again, because you just disagreed with a point I did not make. I didn't say that everyone in Hollywood was not challenged to address Weinstein. I said there's a race piece to this.